am Shikha Jaju, a first year BTech CSAIML student, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you on behalf of IEEE student branch at Atlas SkillTech University as the Joint Secretary. It's a privilege to have such an esteemed speaker here with us today. We would
Thank you
like
very much.
We would like to introduce our university to you. Atlas SkillTech University is Mumbai's first multidisciplinary university with NAC A rated and stands as a forefront in modern age and industry aligned higher education in India. It has programs in design and innovation, management and entrepreneurship, digital technology and law, preparing leaders for Industry 4.0 and beyond. As a tech school, we are constantly innovating and creating, which gives us exposure to real world experiences and connect us with inventors like you. This is our inaugural year as the IEEE Atlas SkillTech University student branch, and it has been an incredible experience, including moments like celebrating IEEE Day, competing in IEEE Extreme, securing a prize of $850, and a global victory in IEEE Day video contest. We also had guest speakers from Nottingham Trent University, University of Sussex, distinguished speakers from IEEE, SPS, and University of Delft. Today, with us, we have a visionary whose contribution has shaped the very foundations of web technologies, an American computer programmer and entrepreneur, widely recognized as JavaScript Guru. If you have ever stayed up till 3 a.m. trying to fix a bug in your code, there is a very good chance our guest today has already written a book about exactly what wrong you did in the code. We are incredibly lucky to be sitting here with you, Mr. Douglas Crockford. And it's a privilege to be with you, sir. To most of the world, he is a man who specified Jason as it's not very day. You get to meet someone who actually changed the entire way of how an internet talks to itself. Beyond Jason, Douglas' career has spanned from early work at Lucasfilm and pioneering electrical communities to being as a distinguished architect at both Yahoo and PayPal. He's the author of JavaScript, The Good Parts, and How JavaScript Works, which have taught generations of developers how to write a reliable software. He also has given us JS Lint, the first tool that challenged us to actually find our mistakes before executing. He has spent his career being the voice of reason in a pretty chaotic industry. Please join me in welcoming a very true and a big legend, Douglas Crockford. I encourage all of you to actively engage, ask questions in the chat, and make the most of this session. And please have a big inspiration from this session. Let's make this session really insightful, interactive, and truly memorable. I would like to call upon Yash Navani, Chair, and Mansi Anand, General Secretary of IEEE Atlas SkillTech University Student Branch, to take fire chat session started. Over to you both.
Hi everyone. I'm Yash Nawani, the chair of IEEE student branch at Atlas SkillTech University. Now we've been speaking a lot, so Douglas, if you would like to address our audience.
Uh, Hello, everybody. I'm not sure what time it is, but it's great to see you all.
Great. So it's a Saturday morning here in India, and I would just like to start on a rather low note. So is there some kind of thought behind the Victorian theme you have set on your LinkedIn? Because I was just going through it and I couldn't help but ask you that.
I'm sorry, you're asking about what?
About the Victorian theme you have set on your LinkedIn.
What is on my LinkedIn?
So right from your picture to right from your profile picture to the one you've also selected at the background. Is there
Oh,
some
oh.
thought behind it?
No, no, I just like the hat.
Okay. All right. And also one more thing, is there a way that you have maybe confused LinkedIn with Twitter? Because I read somewhere that you haven't tweeted ever.
I have never tweeted.
All right, all right. So let me just get started with the questions. Now, to begin with, we'd love to understand your journey. What initially drew you to programming, and how did your career actually evolve over time?
Uh, so started at university. Uh,
Hmm.
my major was in radio and television. I wanted to be a television writer. Uh, I could not get into the studio classes in my first semester because it just couldn't. So I had to take other classes. I stumbled on a Fortran class in the math department. Computer science didn't exist at that university yet. Uh, so I took the class. It was programming a control data 3150 with punch cards. I enjoyed the class a lot. I signed up for the next class, and I was also hired by the School of Science to consult in their time sharing laboratory, a place with teletypes where students could come in and do work. So I was running that lab. Then I transferred to the School of Behavioral and Social Sciences and worked in their lab. And that was a great experience because it taught me about how people interact with computers. So I had these frightened psychologists coming into my lab who had to work out their statistics, and computers were extremely new and scary to them. And in working with them, I developed a sympathy for how normal people have to interact with computers and with computer people. So I think that has helped me a lot in my career. So since then, my career went back and forth between television and computing. I recognized really early that eventually they were going to become the same thing, and they did. So I did those two tracks at the same time and eventually ended up here.
That's great. That's great. So, of course, you've come a long way, but all through this journey, is there any turning point which you would want to say?
Was there any, I was uh, very lucky through my whole career. I stumbled into good jobs. Occasionally, I got into bad ones, but um, didn't stay in them very long. I worked in some amazing places. I worked with some wonderful people. Everywhere I worked, I learned a lot. Um, I was just incredibly fortunate.
That's nice. So, of course, you started with radio and television, but were there any challenges that you faced early on in your career?
Uh, you mean like personal challenges or technical challenges or
No, like something which would influence that how you think today, or something which you want to say to our audience, because it's particularly more of students who are listening to you.
um, I don't know how to answer that. I could tell you the hardest bug I ever had to solve was a real-time bug where our software was interacting with some hardware and there was a race condition. Um, Race conditions are extremely difficult things to debug. And so that taught me that in designing interactive systems, we need to be doing things which are resistant to races because races can't be easily duplicated and cannot be easily fixed. So
Mhm.
that has led me to algorithms which uh, are not terribly popular right now, but which I think are the correct way of going forward.
Okay. Okay. So you work with organizations like Yahoo and PayPal. Now, what are
Mhm.
some of the lessons from these experiences that have stayed with you till now?
Uh, I was fortunate in working at both of those places that I was already famous. And so I asked for and was given autonomy so I could work on anything I wanted. Uh, and so I'd never checked in any code at either of the companies, so I was not involved in their businesses necessarily, although I did a lot of consulting with both companies. I kind of saw myself as a consultant where my client turned out to be the company I was working for. Um, so I thought of myself there as a consultant. Also, sometimes thought of myself as sort of a guest CEO, but I never thought of myself as a coder in any of these companies. So my experience was very different than the experience of most of the people working there.
That's lovely. I would like to introduce Mansi Anand, who is the General Secretary of IEEE Atlas SkillTech University, to ask further questions, please.
Yes. Hello, I'm Mansi. It's an absolute pleasure having you here with us. So,
Thank you.
you mentioned that you didn't really feel like a coder in those companies.
Uh,
Maybe,
I, I'm, s- I, could you be a little louder, please?
yeah, sorry. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned that earlier you played the role more of a consultant rather than a coder in your earlier companies. So, and the books that you've written on how JavaScript works, it talks more about the core fundamentals. But a lot of developers right now in JavaScript are focusing more on the frameworks. So do you think that's deviating us from the core fundamentals?
So when we started working with the browser was in very terrible shape. Um, Browsers were extremely buggy. The standards were not well formed yet. Um, Different versions, different brands were all incompatible. Uh, Bugs didn't get fixed because auto update hadn't been invented yet. So every time there was a revision to a browser, maybe they fixed a bug or not, but they likely introduced new bugs, and not everybody upgraded to that one. So all the old bugs were still there. So it was a very, very difficult programming environment. Um, so the way we dealt with it was I developed JavaScript libraries, which uh, would sit between our programs and the browser so that the people writing our applications didn't have to know about all the terrible things in the browser. They just had to work with my API and they could get things that would work on all the browsers. And so for years, I've been recommending that people not write directly to the document object model, which is the API in the browser, that instead they use a library or a framework or something. But since then, uh, the web standards movement has been successful, and the browsers work much better now than they did before. Interoperability is much, much better. Uh, so my advice now is don't use a framework. Don't use the libraries. Just use the browser. The browser is good enough to do all the things we need to do. I see web applications that are enormous, where they're loading tons of scripts from many servers, and it takes several seconds for the page to get started, which is a terrible user experience. And that those delays are caused by loading enormous amounts of software, most of which is not used. So I think there are smarter, more efficient ways of developing stuff that will give people a better experience.
Thank you, sir. And now with the rise of AI assisted tools like GitHub Copilot and Cursor, Anti-Gravity, and a lot of IDEs like that, and you said that we need to stick to the browser and all of those. So do you think the rise of AI in coding would affect the way a programmer evolves in the term of understanding the code and writing the fundamentals of it?
So the contract we have with the computer is that the programs we give to the computer have to be perfect in every aspect for all inputs, for all situations, for all time. And if our programs are not perfect, then the computer has license to do the worst possible thing at the worst possible time. And it's not the computer's fault. Whose fault is it? It's your fault. So we have to make programs that are perfect. And my experience with AI up to this point is it is not perfect. It is sometimes extremely clever, and it is sometimes incredibly stupid, and it doesn't know the difference. So it's our job to know the difference, but it's likely that if you ask the AI to generate some code for you, it's going to be wrong in some way. And so, it's your job now to debug stuff that was written by an automaton. That sounds like an awful way to make a living to me.
Yeah, sir. And another question I'd like to ask is modern web development often prioritizes the speed of the development over the simplicity or the user readability of the code. So, do you think this trade off is more sustainable in the long run with the program size and the program functions also evolving?
It has to be right. If it's not right, it doesn't matter how quickly you make it. So the
Uh,
first priority has to be correctness, and everything else follows from that. I think if you start with correctness, then that actually is the most efficient way to develop. Um, the making of good software takes time. And if you try to make it take less time, it actually takes more time. So the best way forward is to have reasonable schedules, reasonable expectation about how long things take, and a commitment to doing things right.
okay. And so, given your experience, previous experience as a senior architect or a consultant in Yahoo and PayPal, is security a major concern in large scale applications now?
Oh, absolutely, security is important. Uh, Security is maybe the most difficult aspect of correctness, because it's not only does the program have to be passively correct, but it also has to be resistant to attacks and infiltrations from the outside. And the consequences of a breach can be horrendous. So, yeah, absolutely, security has to be a first consideration. And my understanding of the AI produced applications up till this point is they do not have a good understanding of security.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
maybe
so,
that'll come in time, but they do not appear to have it now.
hmm. And what are some practices or some principles that developers should focus mainly on today to make sure they are building a proper and a secure software?
Um, I would start with making sure that the code is readable, that it should be written in a very plain style, very well documented, good names, good modules, strong cohesion in the components, very loose coupling between the components. Try to make the software clean and clear and resilient.
Yeah. So you mentioned more of an importance on wanting to keep but nowadays every developer in the industry wants to build the next big complex software. And you also said that you didn't invent JSON. In your books you've mentioned that you didn't invent JSON, but you've rather discovered it. So why do you think that developers nowadays find it hard to just keep the code simple and readable rather than overcomplicating it?
Was that a question?
Yeah, why do you think that developers nowadays find it hard to keep the code easy and simple and readable rather than making it complex?
So making programs that work and are maintainable, uh, that's the job. That's what we should be doing. And if we're doing anything else, then we're not doing it right.
Yes. Now I'd like to ask Yash Navani to take over for the next few set of questions.
Yeah, sure. So, I would like to ask you that from your perspective, what role should developers play in shaping user experience, beyond just writing developer code?
Um, so when I started, the programmer was responsible for every aspect of the application, including its user experience. We're now more specialized, so the coders are working on just the code, and we've got designers working on display and UX designers working on the flows, um, which is fine, as long as they're all in communication with each other. Um, uh, if they're working as a team, if it's very collaborative, everybody's contributing, everybody understands the problem. Um, Programmers often have a tendency to think about how systems are used from their perspective, that for them, a command line works fine and they don't understand what all this other stuff's about. Um, and so they often have little or insufficient sympathy for how normal people interact with computers. Um, One thing I would recommend is that coders get swapped into customer support every once in a while. That maybe you work for 6 months, then you take a week and answer phones of people who are trying to use your software. Um, it can be enlightening. I actually had that experience early in my career. I was working in the marketing department of a company that made mini computers. And so my first experience at that company was talking to our customers and occasionally going out to their sites and helping them to troubleshoot their problems with our equipment. That was an enormously helpful thing. And so that informed my design of everything else going forward. I was able to think about how the customers experience our stuff because I'd actually been with them. And I was kind of annoyed at the people I was working with because they hadn't had that experience. And so they were not thinking about our customers at all.
Got it. Got it. So, when you look at many products and services over the internet today, many feel over-engineered. So, what are some signs that a system has become unnecessarily complex?
When it becomes unnecessarily complex.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so software tends to get bloated over time, where the
Yeah.
code base just expands and expands and expands till it gets ridiculous. And the components become so complicated that people don't understand what they're doing. So when they need to extend the system, they actually replicate that code and put it somewhere else because they're afraid to change the original code because they don't understand it. Um, it so um, part of the problem is the way we manage programmers, that we might want to see so many lines of code per day, that's some kind of death march metric, how close are we to the goal? But the thing about software is it's not done until we removed all of the bugs, and we do not know what all the bugs are. We will never know what all the bugs are. So we might have predictions about what percentage complete we are, but that's an unreliable figure because we don't know. So we need to manage toward that. I think periodically we should have periods where we're trying to have negative lines of code, where we're paying off our technical debt, trying to reduce the size and complexity of the code base. I think that's a really good investment. Now, it's hard for managers to look at that because they think, I spent this much money to get us this many lines, and now you're saying I'm spending even more money to get fewer lines. It sounds ridiculous, but in fact, it is necessary if we want the code to be of sufficient quality.
Yeah, but then yet again, you said that we never know which bug is there or how many bugs actually can be there. So, I mean, the cost to that ratio is quite confusing, rather.
Yeah, so the total amount of work is a function of the total number of bugs outstanding. We cannot count, we cannot enumerate that. So how can we have any confidence of where we are in completion? We can have something that looks like it works, and it may work most of the time. But if it fails in public, if it fails at scale, the consequences can be really bad. A couple of years ago, I was in Munich and I was trying to fly home, and then Delta Airlines crashed because of Microsoft and CrowdStrike. They'd done something ridiculously stupid in some middleware that they were selling to the airlines, and the airline was dead all over the world. All of their flights were canceled for days. Um, and it was a trivial thing, uh, but it should have been caught much, much earlier. You don't want to ground the world's airlines in order to find that last bug.
Yeah.
So, and uh, nobody thought through the consequences of that. Um, you know, that last bug can be catastrophic. And,
Mm.
the only way you can be confident you're doing it right, I think, is to have code which is clean and easy to read and understand. If it becomes bloated and complex, you lose that ability to reason about your code. Now, maybe someday the AIs will be smart enough to take our crappy code and turn it into good code. If they could do that, I'd say, oh, this AI sounds like a good idea. But from what I've seen so far, what the AI is good at is giving us more crappy code that they've been trained on tons and ton of crappy code. So if you ask it to code something, it'll take all of that crappy experience it has and give you something crappy. And I don't think that's the tool we've been waiting for.
True. True. So, of course, I think this in legacy companies, as you rightly pointed out, is very essential. But while we are seeing fast-moving startups in India and the Silicon Valley, everywhere around the globe, how should teams balance this rapid iteration with maintaining clean and stable code? Because they need to develop fast and ship fast, right?
Well, yeah, but you also have to make it work. And it's much easier to make clean code work than crappy code. So it doesn't matter how quickly you develop it if it isn't good. So
Mhm.
you can actually make it faster if you make it good from the beginning. Because code that's clean and well structured, well commented, is easier to modify. And it is a certainty that any software we're going to make is going to be modified. And our success going forward depends on our ability to modify the code without breaking it. And so it's a good investment to make it good from the beginning.
Got it. So, do you think technical decisions today are more influenced by business pressures than actually by good engineering principles?
I'm sorry I laughed. Um, yeah, you know the answer to that. You didn't even
I still
need to
want to know
ask the
from you.
question. Yeah. Um, so the people who would benefit the most from the quality of the software being good is management, right? The company wants good stuff. They also think they want it in a hurry. They think cheap and dirty is good enough. And if you tell the programmers to make it cheap and dirty, they will. Um, but in the end, that does not serve the company at all. So I found that very often in managing programmers, managers uh, look for programmers who are having a good attitude. That whatever you tell them to do, they'll say, okay, yes, and we'll do that. Even if what you're asking for makes no sense, okay, we're going to do that. Um, those are not the good programmers. The good programmers are the ones, from my perspective, I think I was a good programmer, and my attitude was, if it's stupid, we won't do it. So, if management asked for something that I thought was going to be bad for the company, I would say, no, we shouldn't do this. Now, it shouldn't be up to the programmers to tell management how to run their business, but sometimes it is necessary.
True, true. Mansi, you can go ahead with your questions.
Yes, thank you, Yash. Sorry. So you talked about how where a programmer shouldn't be telling the management how the code should be. So how do you suggest that an organization creates a culture where the code quality and the simplicity is valued alongside speed and growth? Because the management has their goals to meet and the programmer will have their mindset and their code efficiency.
You need a culture of quality. If everybody understands that we're a quality company, we make quality products that serve our customers, that's how we make money, then everybody can get aligned with that. If it's a dishonest company which says we want to give bad stuff to our customers, and if we're lucky, we'll get away with it. Um, that's not a company you want to be at.
Yeah. And you had written the book JavaScript The Good Parts almost 15 years back, and it has been famously known for being a small book and being very to the point. So do you think the good parts are still what we should be following to date and still relevant in this modern world, or are there some parts that the new developers like us should keep in mind and follow?
Yeah, it'll be 20 years ago next year. So the book's been around for a while. Um, Most of what I identified as good parts are good. There are a few that I said are good that I've since decided are not. So my sense of what's good about the language keeps getting smaller. Um, there is a decreasing subset of JavaScript, which I think is a brilliant language, one of the best languages ever invented. And my good parts book includes some things which I now think probably weren't good, but it's still much better than using the entire language. When I was a young programmer, I would study all the manuals and try to learn as much as I could about the systems I was using. And when I wrote my programs, I would try to include every feature of the language just to kind of show off that I found a use for everything. I later discovered that was a stupid thing to be doing, that I should just focus on the good parts instead. But it took me a while to learn that. The thing that taught me that was JSLint. JSLint turns out was much smarter about JavaScript than I was.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That absolutely makes sense. And you pointed out in the earlier answers as well that the web browser and the web application is all that we need to focus on. So if you could delete some features from the modern web and start over from scratch, then what is that one or two features that you would absolutely leave behind that us developers are really messing it up right now?
I would get rid of the whole thing. So the web, um, let's see, in 2000, I think. Yeah, in the year 2000, there were consultants who were saying that the web is doomed. It's about to be replaced by something better. And so, the web was just one step along the road. When we've had many of those before where there's an exciting new technology and then it gets replaced by something better, that the web is going to be replaced by something better. And the thing they predicted was going to replace it was what they were calling at the time the uh, executable internet. So that instead of sending documents across, they'd be sending programs across. And a lot of companies heard that and believed it, including Microsoft. Microsoft canceled the Internet Explorer project, froze it at IE6. Said that's the end of that. Microsoft didn't want the web in the first place. That was Netscape's thing. So they were happy that the web was going to die. They were going to replace it with what they were calling .NET, and that was going to be the executable internet. The thing that blindsided Microsoft was JavaScript, that it turned out the web browser had a programming language embedded in it, which meant it was already a program delivery system. Um, and so JavaScript saved the web. We still have a web today because of JavaScript. And I have mixed feelings about that. Um, I'm glad that .NET didn't take over the world, but something better should have taken over the world by now, and it hasn't yet. But so I don't believe that we should be stuck with the web forever, um, although there's a good chance that we will. We'll see what happens.
Yes. So you've worked at places ranging from the creative world of Lucasfilm to the corporate
Mhm.
world of PayPal. So is there any common thread on how these two places handle the innovation, or does PayPal focuses more on scale? So does that always end up killing the best ideas?
Uh, yeah, so PayPal is a financial services company, so they need to be very, very cautious. Um, so they like to think of themselves as being innovative, but you can't if you're uh, have as much money flowing through you as they do, you have to be extremely cautious. Um, so, that that's a responsible way to be running that business. At Lucasfilm is at that time wasn't really a software company; it was a movie company. So the software that was being developed there was extremely innovative uh, because um, that software was attempting to replace analog systems. And so they were doing stuff that was new that had never been done before. Uh, stuff that we're doing today in computer graphics and digital video and stuff like that. Lucasfilm had been working on that for years and years. Just wonderful stuff. They had brilliant people there doing that. And it was all new and all amazing and wonderful. So that was a very innovative company.
Yes, sir. And you mentioned that you mentioned earlier that when management says a certain decision, and you always say your views that that's not a very good idea, that we should proceed from a programmer's point of view. So, how, as a junior developer or a student, how would you say the kind of the mindset that we need to have the courage to tell a management that the idea is over engineered or too complex to be
Uh,
used in the industry?
yeah, I don't know. Things are so different now than when I was programming. Um, Programming was still a fairly new thing. There only been one generation of programmers at the time that I started. And so we were still pretty new and unique and mysterious, and management didn't really understand where we came from, but they knew that they couldn't do what they were doing without us. So we had, uh, I think, quite a bit of power and influence. Uh, Today, maybe because of the AI. So management now thinks, well, we don't really need these people. They're just going to be prompt generators for the AIs. Anybody could do that. That requires no skill or education. So I don't think that's true, but I think there are a lot of managers who think that's true. And so they think they can marginalize the programmers. And so you're just a commodity, that you're nothing special or magical about you anymore. The magic is in the AI now. So they don't need to listen to you anymore. Um, that's terrible and discouraging. And I think ultimately it's going to lead to failure, and they're going to wake up and say, no, these people are actually really important. We need to figure out how to make them more successful. But we're going through a very weird time right now. I don't know how it settles out.
Yes. Now, thank you so much, sir. And now I would like to call Yash to take some questions from the audience that we have.
So we have a lot of questions from the audience, but I would just like to pick a few. I have this question from Kirtiraj Garud. If JSON was redesigned today for AI native systems, what would you change, if anything?
Um, if it still needs to be human readable, then I wouldn't change a thing. JSON works really well as a human readable format. For something I'm developing now, an actor system, I have two binary forms of JSON called NOTA and WOTA, which do exactly the same thing that JSON does, but do it in a way that is not human readable, but is more compact and faster to process. Uh,
Okay.
so I don't think AI has special needs compared to what other kinds of programs would need. I never intended JSON to be the last data interchange standard. There are some problems that it solves really well, and I'm sure there are problems that it doesn't. And in fact, I have a couple, and that's why I've created some more formats. But for the things JSON does well, it's great. And uh, one of the best features of JSON is it does not have a version number, which means it's impossible to revise it. So you can replace it. You could come up with another standard which is better, but you can't change JSON. It is the way it is forever, which means all of the software that's ever been written that depends on JSON having that form, it will always work because JSON can't be anything else. So that's sort of a nice thing. You have a stack where you've got lots and lots of layers of stuff, and all of it is subject to change and bugs. But at the JSON level, it's always stable. It's always going to work. And I can't think of any feature you could add to JSON which is more valuable than that.
True. We have one more question, and I think you're gonna love answering that. Why is JSON not allowing the use of comments?
Um, because it's minimal.
Mm-hmm.
So it was intended for sending messages over the network. And, so that you could create a message in one programming language and send it to another programming language. And who reads the comments? The other program, it doesn't make sense for it to see comments. So you're just wasting time on the network sending stuff that is not meaningful. So they just don't belong there. There are other uses for JSON, like in configuration files and stuff like that. And for those applications, I recommend put in comments and then run the JSON through JSLint. It'll take all the comments out. So in the file that you're editing, do whatever you want, and then run it through JSMin. That'll make it clean, and then you can give it to any JSON parser in the world, and it'll do the right thing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think someone from the audience had a question, right, Sarikam?
Yes. So, Kiritraj, you can ask the question.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Sarika ma'am. First up, thanks, Dr. Douglas sir, for this amazing session which you are conducting for all of us. My question is that JSON is loved for its simplicity. What's one complexity that you intentionally left out, you sometimes wish you hadn't? This is an interesting kind of thing which I wanted to ask you. Thanks.
Yeah, so I can't change them, but there are a couple of things that I would like to change, but I can't and I won't. So ignore what I'm about to tell you. I thought the E notation was too complicated. I allowed you to say E plus. There's no reason to do that. I should have said no plus, just E number or E minus number, but no plus. Also, I let you say the E in uppercase or lowercase. There's no reason for that. It should just be lowercase and that's it. So that's not a big thing. No one would ever notice, but it's slightly more complicated than it needed to be, and so I regret that, but I can't fix it. Maybe the other thing is the way it works with Unicode. Because it was based on JavaScript, it does Unicode badly in the same way that JavaScript does Unicode badly. So if you have a character in the extended character set, there's this weird notation where you have two surrogate characters in a row. It's just awful. It's part of UTF-16, and that's baked into JSON, and I'm sorry I did that. But, there we are. That's not going to change either. At least it works. So it's not pretty, but it works.
Mr. Garud, I hope it answers the question. We have another question from Rujula Bhatkar. In software, you advocate for eliminating bad parts to ensure reliability. Do you think XAI is reactive fix for all inherently flawed models?
Do I think XAI?
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you think AI is a reactive fix for inherently flawed ones?
So AI might be a good thing in the future, but right now AI does not do reasoning, as I understand it, just does pattern matching. And so like Microsoft stuff is trained on everything that's ever been checked into GitHub. And I have to believe there's a lot of crap in GitHub And so that's what the AI gets trained in. And that's, if you ask it something, it'll try to match what you're asking to something it's seen and it'll spit it back out. Um, I, so it doesn't really understand what good code is. I've had people write to me saying, I ask it to give me some code in the style of JSLint and it can't do it. You know, so they get crappy code instead and then they have to clean it up themselves. So it's like, how much is the AI actually helping?
Correct.
Thank you so much for the insightful answers, sir. We have certainly gained new perspectives on how Jason industry works, and we would love if you could share a few words of wisdom to our attendees.
Don't make bugs. Yeah.
That was really crisp and precise, sir. On behalf of IEEE Student Branch and Atlas SkillTech University, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to Douglas Crockford for taking the time to engage with us today. It has been a really insightful session, sir. Your perspective on how clever or stupid the AI is, and how can it go wrong most of the times, like asking ChatGPT, to give me the code, and then you go on VS Code, copy it, and then you are like, oh my god, I have a bug, how can I clean it and everything. Then the complexities regarding Jason and everything, so it has given us a lot to reflect, not just as developers but as future innovators and decision makers. Thank you once again for being so generous with your time and insight. It has been an absolute privilege to host you. Now, I would like to request our IEEE Atlas SkillTech University Student Branch Counselor and Mentor, Dr. Sarika Ma'am, to give away a token of appreciation and vote of thanks to Crockford, sir.
So good morning, everyone, and good evening to you, sir. So on behalf of IEEE Atlas SkillTech Student Branch, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for such an enriching and thought-provoking fireside chat. So just to share with you, as a faculty member, I've been teaching web development, and this session was especially meaningful to me. So over the years, while teaching and working with JSON and JavaScript, I've seen the first hand how profoundly your work has shaped the modern web. And what we teach in classrooms and what participants build today stands strongly on the foundations you have created. So, sir, your thoughts on simplicity, design philosophy, especially the programmer or the best programmer philosophy or the good programmer philosophy, and the real world problem solving has truly inspired all of us. And this was not just a session, it was an experience that our students will carry forward in their learning journey. So thank you once again, sir, for your time, your wisdom, and for inspiring all of us over here. And I would
Thank
also
you.
like to, yeah, thank you so much, sir. And I also like to express my sincere gratitude to our Atlas leadership, Indu Shahani ma'am, Dr. Rajan Velukar sir, Hina Thakkar ma'am, Siddharth Shahani sir, along with our faculty mentor, Shashikant Patel sir, for their constant encouragement and support. Their guidance makes it possible for our student branch to grow and take on bigger initiative. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sarika ma'am. Uh, Douglas Crockford, sir, do you remember me? We were the one connecting through Atlas to you. Hello.
Hello, I'm sorry.
So, do you remember us connecting to you on LinkedIn and the mails?
Yes.
Okay. We hope to stay connected and looking forward for future more collaborations, sir.
Okay.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the feedback part. Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. I request all the audience to please fill this feedback form, as we greatly value your feedback and your input. And the filling of the feedback form is also mandatory for the e-certificate. had a wonderful time at this session, and please have a great day ahead. I would like to request Sir to please stay back for a group photo with all the IEEE Atlas members. Yeah, and the feedback form link has been shared on the chat. You can see that.
So we'll take a group photo with Sir. Yashar, if you can just unshare your slide so that we can have a proper, and I'll just remove the spotlight as well. Just 1 second. Is it proper or should I? Yeah, I hope it is proper. We all are visible. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time. And I know it's really late for you as well there, but hope to see you connected and the same way for collaboration with our future event as well. Keep inspiring and keep guiding us, our students as well as faculty members.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.